Hey, this is Cornelius Lindsey, and welcome to the Silent Majority. You know, with growing partisan distaste amongst many voters, there's a silent majority that's growing that doesn't find a home in either of America's two major political parties. People don't know how to identify themselves, and a large number of people are simply not voting. Of all the voters, many people are just unsatisfied with either the candidates or the system. This silent majority is growing, and we have something to say. Welcome to the Silent Majority. Hey, everybody, this is Cornelius Lindsey. Welcome to day 2 of the recap of the Democratic National Convention. I am joined again by my good friend, Rob. Robert Kelly. Rob, what do you say? Well, let me ask you this question, Robert. Who was the star? Who stood out tonight for the convention for you?
You know, for me, there were no real stars that really stood out in terms of what they said. I think for me, the portion that really spoke the most to who Joe Biden is was the last segment with his wife, Jill Biden. It's not necessarily even her speech. It was that last segment where they were kind of showing, their background, their kind of love story, how they raised their family. You know, I think that part really spoke to his humanity. I think more than anything I've seen up to this point, it spoke to the character that people would want to see out of a president. So I did think that they did that segment really well. In terms of people speaking and, doing their points, I think, I didn't really hear anything new.
Yeah.
I think, to me, the best speaker was Jacqueline Brittany, the New York Times security guard. I mean, for me, her seemed the most real, and sincere. But I think that segment really, I think for emotional voters, that probably spoke a lot.
Yeah, and for me, surprisingly, I thought John Kerry did the best. My question is,
really,
where was he at when he was running for president? The John Kerry who spoke tonight was not the same John Kerry who ran with John Edwards. That was not the same John Kerry who stood on that debate stage against Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Barack Obama, Wesley Clark, all of those guys. Remember that whole Democratic circus when they all ran?
I do agree.
That was not the same John Kerry. That John Kerry was statesman. That John Kerry was presidential. That John Kerry, John Kerry, I thought that John Kerry was running for president.
I agree. I think he was extremely polished. I think the words he said was powerful. I think for me though, just across the board, I was looking for something that was going to really spark something. I guess as a millennial, and I didn't really feel anything across the board that just was like wow to me. I mean, people made good points, but nothing really hit home. And granted, I think today was more so targeted to maybe the older crowd. They had a lot of, people that like the Kennedys that kind of would appeal to the older voters, the more moderate voters. And I think that's probably where their appeal was going today. But just overall, I think that I wasn't impressed so much by anyone.
And see, but for me tonight, I watched all of night 1 begrudgingly, but I watched all of night 1, almost falling asleep, but I watched all of night 1. Night 2 was a bit more captivating. I felt like they really stayed on. They really just stayed on the mark. For John Kerry talking about foreign policy and national policy to Colin Powell. You have 2 former Secretary of States And then you have 2 former Secretary of States from different parties. The Democratic Party, one thing they are doing well is they are appearing as if they are the big tent. They are portraying Joe Biden as though he is this happy guy who's just regular old Joe. Throw my arms out. I'm going to support you. Don't matter who you are. Like you heard Jill. Jill said he gave away his phone number. He's going to Skype with you. He's going to talk to you. This is Joe. Like that's what they call. This is Joe. You guys know Joe. Everybody knows Joe. Like Cola's like, this is Joe. And then to top it all off, I thought John McCain was getting ready to come out when that tribute came out. I said, hold up, who approved this? Like, did John come back and did this? Maybe I missed something.
No. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think they're definitely painting him as a moderate. I think they're definitely painting him as someone, which I think he has proven to be able to walk across the aisle. I do think that is a strong point. I think that that's something that they did well tonight, to your point, was to make him think. And like I said yesterday, if they're going to win, they need to get a broad constituency. They have to widen their reach. And I think tonight was an aim at trying to make him more relatable to more than just the left, to those moderates, to those independents, to those undecided. I think that was the mark that they were trying to hit tonight. And I mean, to your point, I think they did do a good job at hitting that mark.
Now here's the only thing: did people actually watch it? I would love to see. I would love to see what some of the numbers are that comes out about the number of people who actually watch it. I mean, because most of the people who I knew, who I asked the question, today, hey, did you watch it last night? Yeah, I watched 10 minutes of it. I'd turn it off, or I watched some of it. I was like, are you going to watch tonight? No. I was like, who's speaking tonight? I don't really know. I don't really know who's talking tonight. I don't have a clue who's talking tonight. I don't know who's talking tonight. I don't know. And I was like, well, Jill's going to talk tonight. And it was like, well, I don't really want to hear from Jill. One thing I thought was extremely powerful, though, is not only are they making Joe seem very, Joe is just regular old Joe. Then it's like, this is just regular old Jill. And they painted Jill Biden like this is your favorite English teacher. This is the English teacher who told you can always do it. For her to deliver her speech in a classroom, that is a place where most Americans can all relate to, because we've all sat in that classroom, whether we did well in that classroom or whether we didn't do so well in that classroom. We can all relate to a classroom. We can all relate. All of us, we can all go back to at least one teacher who was very impressionable, who influenced our lives in some way. And then to know that even while she was vice president, she still went and she still taught as English teacher. It's like, and she went back to her stomping grounds, for an American who is watching that, who wants a sense of normalcy, who wants a sense of, everything's going to be okay. When Jill said this about Joe. She said, well, although the classrooms are empty now, that when Joe gets in here, she said, we're gonna be back to normal. Everything's gonna be back. She's like, Joe's gonna bring all this stuff back. Now, I don't believe all of it, per se, but nevertheless, that was very convincing and very good on the DNC's part.
I totally agree. I think that, and she represents such a stark contrast to what we have right now, to Melania.
Yeah.
Just the fact that, she's an English teacher, she's proficient in English, something that Melania struggles with. They have this.
But Melania know 5 languages though.
But English is English one of them?
Oh God.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if English is her best language.
Yeah, I believe she speaks 5. I believe she speaks 5 languages. But go ahead.
She may. This is not a shot. I'm talking about like the average voter, what they're looking at, and I think that because while she does speak 5 languages, I think for the average voter, she was different. I don't think we've ever had a first lady that I can remember that was that seemed foreign. I think to a lot of people, Melania still seems foreign, and I think that Jill has that more of that for the wife, that more American, hometown feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then just their family, like I said, that segment. It's almost like bringing back a sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
That I think people don't feel now. Just their children, and then how did you feel about just how they spoke to Biden overcoming tragedy with him losing his son, his family, his wife, and his child. I thought that was an interesting dynamic that they really played upon tonight.
Absolutely, and I think they did a really good job of it. I love politics. I know you do too. So I know I know Joe's story, especially as recently as the death of Bo. But every time I hear it, it takes me back to regular old Joe. And that it's that tragedy that allows for people to really hone into him. I could imagine the millions of Americans sitting at home like, man, I've lost a child. I know what that feels like. And Joe knows what that feels like. Or to say, I've lost a spouse and Joe knows what that feels like. And I know what that feels like. I've lost this and Joe knows what that feels like. And I know what that feels like. Joe knows me. Joe can feel my pain because Joe has felt my pain. So the DNC has done an amazing job on really painting Joe Biden as this steady leader that is just, he's just steady. It's just regular old Joe. This is just regular old Joe. Now, one of the things that I feel like this is going to be problematic is that, if Joe Biden was running for, daddy in chief to be on Full House, he would be a shoo-in, but he's running to be president. And I don't know if, like, when I watched this tonight, I felt very empathetic even towards Joe Biden. I felt like Joe Biden is like the uncle that America needs. He's like the grandfather that we like, oh, there's Joe, there's Grandpa Joe. We love Grandpa Joe. But then I don't know if that really translates to leader Joe. Like, show me leader Joe. Show me where Joe has led. I've seen his tragedy. I've seen his ability to go across the aisle. But now let's talk about policy. Let's talk about the crime bill. Let's talk about over 40 years of public service. We can't just say, these people are just saying, like Colin Powell, these people, I've known Joe this long. I've known Joe. Okay, great. You've known Joe, but let's talk about policy. Let's talk about what Joe's done. Joe seems like he's a nice guy, but does nice attribute to leadership? And then let's define leadership, because does Donald Trump attribute to leadership? Boom. That's my case.
No. I mean, I think the where they're going with that is because, coming into DNC, what we heard was crime bill. He's tough on crime bill, and that was kind of the, for a lot of voters, kind of the narrative that surrounded him. A lot of people, especially because he wasn't that vocal in the Obama administration. He was kind of that guy back in the shadows. And so a lot of people don't know who he is as a person. They don't know him. They know of him. They know, and he's with Obama. And that's his claim to fame, the guy with Obama, for many people. And so I think what they did tonight was necessary. I think it was necessary to establish him as his own person, with his own story, with his own, credibility outside of Obama's name, and to